Paranormal After Dark with the Roadie.
Christchurch band Sins of Eve with the new theme song for Series 2 here of Paranormal After Dark with the Roadie. How are you all? It's great to be back. More paranormal chat and more great rock and roll as well. Coming up this week, I have an interesting show. I'm speaking to Natasha from Paranormal New Zealand. Now, there's some technical issues to start with in the show, and was it paranormal or was it technology? I'm not sure whose end it was or if it was the paranormal out in the ether, but I get things sorted after the first 8 minutes, so just bear with the first 8 minutes. The show certainly improves after that. Back to another Paranormal After Dark with the Roadie here. Tonight I have Natasha from Paranormal New Zealand with me.
Hi everyone.
Hello Natasha, great to have a chat. Now, I like to talk about different aspects to people's different sort of views and angles and things on the paranormal. So firstly, you come from I guess you could say a background that a lot of paranormal investigators don't come from, an engineering background.
Yes, I'm a chemical and materials engineer,
Right.
and I've been doing that for quite a long time.
So how does that, because engineers, the way engineers think, it's how does that thinking apply to paranormal investigation? Because you watch a lot of them, a lot of people can be emotional and you kind of look at it more logically.
Yeah, one, we do like gadgets, so we're always interested. Well, I'm always interested to see how things work. But two, there's also things that even logical engineers can't figure out, that they can't explain, and there doesn't seem to be any other explanation at the time apart from being paranormal. Right. So that's sort of how I got into things.
Right. So you put a bit of stock on gadgets, because that's an area as a radio guy that I look at, but some of the stuff is like I kind of, especially the radio ones where it's scanning through radio frequencies on broadcast band, I kind of think, really, that's a bit of a I just think that's a kind of, you're picking up radio stations and doing random words. I'm not sure about those type of gadgets. What do you think about the radio based ones?
Yeah, like the SB7, the SB11s. I don't put much stock in them either, because it's basically audio pareidolia. Essentially, you are trying to look for something, and you might think that the words coming through might sound like an actual paranormal entity trying to communicate you. So I don't really use apps and things like that, because they can do all sorts of weird things, like scan your location and find out history, especially if you don't use them in aircraft mode. But then, it's been shown that some apps can bypass the aircraft mode, or airplane mode, and you can actually still do a big web scrape of history in the area. So I'm interested in gadgets, and I'm interested to see how they work, but in reality, nobody really knows how spirits or entities or paranormal things want to interact with us. No one has anything like super proven to show that, they talk at this frequency, or this geo box or geoport is the way to communicate. I think it's important to try different things, like an experiment, like you would in engineering or in any scientific field, and see what works best for you.
It's quite interesting, the radio ones, because I have to laugh. I see guys online say, "Oh, it's been detuned. It's been detuned," and you go, "Nah, you don't detune a radio."
Yeah,
it's kind of bit of a funny thing.
Yeah, we did use one on Norfolk Island, which only has like one official radio station, so that didn't work very well.
No.
As you can imagine.
No.
Well, actually, there was technically two stations. I think one was it sounded like a Russian numbers station, if you're familiar with those.
Yeah.
That's what mine sounded like.
Yeah, I told Amy all about that, because there's actually, I used to listen to shortwave quite a bit when I was a young fella, and it's quite interesting because we had that, particularly during the Cold War, there was one of them that used to pop up regularly here in New Zealand, and it's actually, just a secret, it's just a code for agents around the world. But the story goes that there's a Soviet era one on automation still going.
Yeah.
And that
There's a
could well
couple.
be, yeah,
There's a couple in the USR.
yeah, that's right. There's still Soviet era ones that are still broadcasting a code from somewhere in Siberia. So whether or not the Russians now know that they still exist or not, but it's probably what you're picking up.
Could be one on a submarine or something. Who knows?
Could be. Because there's also a British one that used to. The British one used to do the same thing. Used to have I'm trying to think what the name. Ooh, that's a terrible squeal on the line. That's better. We had a British one that used to do a bit of a what was it? It was I can't think of the name of the song now, but it had a classical piece of music that would play at a certain time, and they'd have a man and a woman say different words every day for the British agents around the world. So it's quite interesting, really.
Yeah, I think I know the one you were talking about, but I can't remember the tune.
Yeah. It was it wasn't Greensleeves. It was something else, but it was quite those ones are quite prevalent around the place. But they were on shortwave, so a lot of those scanners that you use for the paranormal are all FM, of course, so it won't affect them. And not too sure what's going on there on the line, but we'll be back with Natasha from Paranormal New Zealand here on Paranormal After Dark with the Roadie. After this song, Dunedin band Saurian and a song called Down at the Crown.
You wanna shut me down? Put your hands in the air and turn around. Tackle me face to the ground. Out on the street, down at the ground. Dancing on the tables, dancing in the street. When the boys in blue come, they'll riot all week. Never gonna turn us down. Rocking out at the ground. You have to burn it to the ground. You don't like your sound. Me and the boys just making some noise. Playing them sounds that the crowd enjoys. Some blues go from police deploy. Who the hell keeps his goons employed? Dancing on the tables, dancing in the street. When the boys in blue come, they'll riot all week. Never gonna turn us down. Rocking out at the ground. You have to burn it to the ground. If you don't like your sound. Never gonna turn us down. Rocking out at the crowd. Never gonna turn us down. Rocking out at the crowd. You have to burn it to the ground.
So having a few issues here with the audio. I'm not sure what it is. It's probably something paranormal out in internet land, but who cares? So so the radio gadgets, I don't put much stock in them. What do you think about these cell phone ones that people get? Is that what you're talking about with the location thing? I mean, I find it hard to believe that let's just for want of a better term, a spirit from say the 19th century would even be able to work out how the hell to do that, you know?
Yeah, I mean, with regards to that, a lot of places you go to are fairly old, and the people wouldn't even necessarily know what a telephone was, let alone a cell phone or an app.
That's exactly right.
And I don't put much stock in apps. The only app we really use is Portal.
Right.
It's the Portal app, and we use it for the Estes method. So someone listens to that app in isolation from the person saying the questions, so you can't hear what they're asking.
Yep.
And the Portal app, I think it's got like 3 or 4 actors that they have recorded, and they play basically what they recorded backwards, and you kind of discern what the whatever is coming through is communicating with the person talking saying the questions.
And so do you think that works? I've watched that Estes method a couple of times. Do you think that's legit? Well, I mean, we don't know, but do you think that could be legit? I mean, I just don't. Yeah, I've watched some that have been really, really accurate, and then I've watched some that have been totally off the mark. So I don't know what to think about that one. People have told me I should try it, but kind of.
Yeah, I'm sort of a don't knock it till it try it. Like when I'm usually the one that's wearing the headset and talking, well, I feel like I'm talking gibberish. Yeah. And then I'll ask after the session, did anything I say made any sense? And most of the time, well, 9 times out of 10, apparently it does make sense.
Oh, okay.
But I can't explain it or disprove it at this stage. I'll probably have to do a few more sessions with it. To find out whether or not it's valid. Again, you can't really knock it until you try it and trial it several different times.
Yeah.
I suppose you could it could be, audio pareidolia again, because you can preempt some of the questions, especially if it's a location you've been to quite a few times. Or you know the history of that location.
Yeah.
So you could potentially be biased before you even start, and so you might, I don't know, maybe get a 75% hit rate, for instance, for questions,
right?
Unless they ask really, really random things, like what is your favorite color or something, and you nail that right, or
So what about EVPs for you? I mean, I've heard a lot of different EVPs online and different people, and some of them are quite compelling, and then there's others, as you say, a pareidolia. But I mean, do you think there's anything to that?
I've captured a few random things. I tend to be, I suppose you could say, lucky. When I put equipment down, I tend to pick up some anomalies.
Oh, okay.
Probably the most recent one was in Australia. We went to Arundel Asylum in Ararat, which is in Victoria, and it was the end of the night, and we had a geoport, and we had a voice recorder, and I had my camera, and then there is an EVP in my voice clearly saying a phrase that I only say to one person, and I had said it about 7 hours earlier at the motel about 2 kilometres away. Now, none of the people I do ghost hunting with or paranormal investigations with know this phrase, because I only use it with one person. And I'm on camera, and my mouth isn't moving, but it's my voice, and it's saying that phrase.
Isn't that got to be freaky though, man? Your voice, I mean, that's like, wow.
And this place is well known for doppelgangers and mimics.
Okay. So
I'm like, how would that, if it was an EVP or an entity, how would it know what I said 7 hours earlier to someone in New Zealand over my phone 2 kilometres away?
That is weird.
How?
That one that's yeah.
And it was at the time, none of us registered it. So at the time we were using a geoport because we just thought, hey, we'll give it a go.
Yep.
But it definitely wasn't the geoport, because none of us registered talking or anything really at that time. So it was something potentially captured that we couldn't hear at that time on a voice recorder and on my video camera. I can't explain that one. That one's probably the weirdest one I've ever come across.
That is
to be
weird.
honest.
Like your own voice. I mean, that's yeah. See, the thing that gets me about some of the EVPs that I've heard, and I've heard a number of different people on YouTube and radio shows and that playing them back, is especially, and I love this one. There was a guy that was playing some from allegedly from Gettysburg, right? And he was playing these things back, and they all had American accents. And I'm thinking, 1865, United States. If you look back into history, a lot of those accents were English and Irish and Scots. The American accent hadn't been developed,
And French. So it would be a weird accent. It wouldn't be something we probably recognise.
That's exactly it. And so that's where a lot of these alleged EVPs fall down, because, okay, I get if you're using, like, if someone wants to put, let's just for shits and giggles, we say that, okay, the ghost tube works, and so the voice in that is generated from the phone. I get that, but if you're trying to claim that you're recording a voice from the other side of someone who died at Gettysburg, then his voice isn't going to sound like a modern day American, surely.
No, not at all. I have caught some EVPs in some places, like an old theatre in Auckland, which had like the weird, like 1920s to 1950s sort of very English.
Is that the one in the lighting box?
No, this one was at the top of the stairs of the cinema, and you can hear, because it's on quite a busy street, you can hear the sounds of the cars. You can hear people going past, and then then I caught something that says "wait for the announcements." Like someone would announce in the old days, get ready to go and see the get ready to go in and see the movie, because they had ushers and things, and it was a female, and it turns out that particular cinema had not a female owner, but a female that used to work there that would sound like that. So that was kind of random, and it was in the accent, and it was also on a video camera. Okay,
because I've seen one on you guys' site of a theatre in Auckland, and I think it wasn't you, but there was a couple of people sitting in the lighting box, and there's a male accent in the background which has an English or that old Kiwi accent to it. Like, oh, that's pretty wicked. I can't remember which one it was, but yeah. See, that's where a lot of these things fall down. They don't take into account things like accents and like, touch the antenna. Well, I'm from the 18th century. I don't know what an antenna is,
Yeah, touch this device with lights on it. Yeah. What's a light?
Yeah, exactly. So what do you think? Those, you have those Mel REMs, and you have the pods and all that are trying to record proximity. I mean, in your mind, being a more sort of, I guess, almost scientific, if you like, do you think that it's possible for a proximity thing like that to pick up something that might be, I don't know, not quite in this realm, or not quite, you know what I mean?
I think they would have merit, even though we don't really have proof of them. Basically, because it emits a EMF around it, and then once that EMF field is broken, it'll beep, like it'll give a noise or flash, or it's like those music box and things. That's how they work. But I like my trusty EMF meter, to be honest, to try and detect if there's any EMF anomalies, and then try and figure out where that is coming from. Basically, is it power lines, or is there a giant, cell phone tower on the roof or nearby, or whatnot? Even phones can set off the EMF meters. I had a Huawei, and I could text someone and I could set it off.
Really?
Of my EMF meter. Yeah.
Oh, really? See, that's
so different phones give out like quite a lot of EMF.
Yeah.
Depending on whether they're receiving messages or calls, or even if they're just connecting to a cell tower.
Yeah, right.
But with the REM pods and things like that, I believe like if something comes and disrupts that EMF, and if we go by the traditional idea of ghosts that they are energy or residual energy or the soul of someone who's passed, then sure, they should be able to disrupt that EMF field because they're giving off energy as well.
So what do you think? I mean, you see, I'm in two minds when I watch a lot of the different teams on YouTube, or I you know, I've done a couple of sessions in different theatres and stuff over the years, with my theatre background. Do you see? I'm in two minds. I used to think, oh yeah, it's the spirits of the dead, or it's residual. But I'm beginning to wonder, and this is based on watching some of the UK teams like Ghosts on Trent and that, where they literally go to a house that it's like they've just up and left it, and it's, all the stuff's still there, right? And I often wonder if it isn't some sort of, like, how do you say it, interdimensional, like as if the first question shouldn't be, how do you see us? Like are they sitting in their time, right? Or have they passed and they're in the time that they passed, and they're sitting in their couch watching TV, and you appear to them as a spirit? You see what I mean? I'm beginning to wonder if it's not something like that. It's kind of,
like,
you know,
like our two dimensions or timelines
yeah,
connect at certain points.
Yeah,
That's like time travel and
well, there was
astrophysics as well.
yeah. Well, see, there was an episode of Deep Space Nine one time, and I can't recall it because I haven't watched for ages. But there was a part where somehow two universes came together momentarily, and one of the guys was walking along, and he saw someone that had died or something in the crew on the promenade. But they were in the other universe because the other universe had crossed at that point. And I'm thinking, I wonder if it's something like that, or is it when you've died and you go back to a place, you're sitting in the place. Say you died in 1983, you're literally seeing the place as it was in 1983. It's kind of, you know what I mean?
Yeah, we don't really know. There's like two schools of thoughts on those sorts of things. The first one is the residual one that you mentioned, where it's someone in their time, say 1983, and they're just going about their daily routine in that particular house, or that particular, or if the house has been knocked down, that particular area, like as if nothing has changed. Or are hauntings more, you know, you get hauntings where you feel like that they are intelligent and they do interact with you, but whether or not that's a coincidence, you know, the history of the place, and you're asking the right questions at the right time.
So what
I don't know,
think?
but
which one do you err on the side of?
I've come across probably more residual. What I feel at the time were residual rather than intelligent.
Yeah. So
so I don't think there's like ghosts everywhere wandering about, like, or even in old buildings or new buildings or whatnot.
Yeah, but see, that's the thing that gets me a little bit. I'm kind of like, well, if there's ghosts, or say we're talking about that, why aren't they just wandering down the road, or you know what I mean, or in the sea, or it's kind of, I don't know, it's hard to, you know.
Because when you have, like, if you have residual hauntings in these houses that don't exist anymore, say it's been built 10 years after the person died or whatever, does the energy from that place still stay at that site? So does that mean there should be people in ghost cars, or
well, that's exactly that's it,
or ghost horses and people riding ghost horses around?
Well, that's the other thing. That's the other thing that while we're here, animals as well. You know, we always talk about spirits of people, but you know, like you say for example, an old farmhouse. Surely there'd be cats and dogs around, and if they're intelligent, for want of a better word, like a spirit that's haunting the place, then would there not be dogs and cats and horses and pigs haunting the place?
I live in North Waikato, and there is literally like 2 streets over from me is the stockyards.
Yep.
So surely I would hear ghost cows and ghost sheep, but
Yeah.
I definitely hear cows and sheep, but I don't think they're ghosts. They or is it? It's sort of like, I'd like to believe that if I were to become a ghost, I wouldn't stay in an asylum that treated me badly.
Well, that's
Unless that's the only thing I'd known. I'd like to go back to a place that I really love, like, say, my own house, with my own furniture and my own back garden and all, my fruit trees and stuff. I would want to be in a place that I enjoyed when I was alive, rather than be kicking around in the cemetery.
That's
or
right. That's kind
hospital,
that's right. That I do struggle with when they go to asylums and prisons and the places of haunting. I'm with you. If I pass and I get to haunt somewhere, why the hell am I going to haunt a prison if I've been locked up in prison? You're dead right. It's kind of one of those interesting, almost a paradox, I suppose, about like, why would you?
I could be the devil's advocate, and like, if you've been institutionalized all your life and that's all you know, and even though it may not have been a nice experience, it may be the only experience, especially if you're in an asylum and you're disabled, and that's where you've always lived, and that's where you ended up passing away.
Yeah,
so that's probably the only case I could think of, because you don't know any better or any different. Like that was your home.
Yeah, that's true. I suppose that's a fair point. Prisoners, I wonder about though. Why would you want to haunt a prison? It's kind of like, because anyone who's ever been in prison has been outside of prison before they've got there, right? So surely if they die, they'd want to haunt somewhere else.
Yeah, stealing cars and doing bank robberies.
Exactly.
Why not?
Paranormal After Dark with the Roadie.
Yeah, you talk about intelligent hauntings. See, I do laugh sometimes. Some of the YouTube ones you watch when they say that was on command, right? Because like if I'm a spirit and you're telling me to jump through hoops, I might not necessarily want to jump through hoops, and you're hardly commanding me to do anything, right? It's kind of, I think on command's the wrong word, almost.
Yeah, I mean, yes, we try and treat entities or spirits as if they're like someone, like family that have passed away. They're not like performing dogs that perform on cue, per se.
That's right.
And a lot of the knocks and things can be disproved with like the building settling, and even on those TV shows they need to have ratings, right? So they probably have someone going around knocking 3 times or whatnot on cue. I've yet to see a paranormal program where I'm 100% sure that isn't going on.
That's right. And even some of the YouTube channels, I do wonder sometimes if that's happening. I mean, I can't say for sure, but I mean, you do wonder, because to me, yeah, you're right. Treat it like a conversation. Like, if I like you, I'll talk to you. If I don't, I won't. So, like, why am I just going to, he wants me to knock, I'll knock. I might not want to. It's kind of, it's that sort of situation, It's very intriguing, the whole kind of, that other side. Now, while we're talking about what spirits are and art and stuff, that's just come to mind. Demons. There's a thing that really pisses me off. Okay, it really pisses me off. Yeah, because when people say that's a demon or this is a demon or whatever, because my view of it is, and this is just me, okay, I think demons were created by the church. So, in other words, they say it's a demon so that you'll come to them for help and join them, kind of thing. Like all this sort of possessed by a demon rubbish. I mean, what do you think of that?
I'm not sure about being possessed by demons, but I do believe if you are a bad person in life, then potentially if you become a spirit, then you'll be a bad person in the afterlife.
Sure, but that doesn't mean you're a demon, though. You know what I mean? I mean, it's kind of, I get a bit, that demon thing frustrates me when it's demonic. No, it's not. No, it's not. He's just a bad bastard. He was just a bad bastard or a grumpy bastard in life, right? You know.
I mean, I haven't come across any demons, and I haven't seen anyone get possessed, or I've seen people get angry on investigations, which is weird, but I haven't seen people like fully possessed requiring church intervention. But even if you go beyond the church, like back into the pagan days and things, they didn't necessarily have demons, but they had deities that were not as nice as the others to explain things that happened that they couldn't explain otherwise.
Well, that's exactly
now we've
right.
got science and technology to explain quite a lot of those sorts of things. Like, you know, you'd sacrifice people to make sure that you had a good harvest, or you had rain for your harvest and things like that, to appease the god or appease demons or the not so nice entities. But now we have a better understanding of everything else. So I can understand where that came from.
Yeah, me too.
I don't necessarily believe it,
No.
but I do believe there is a balance of some sort. Like you've got to have the good with the bad.
Oh yeah, I agree with you there. But I just
not necessarily like demons going around possessing people.
No,
I mean,
that kind of whole thing seems like an industry to me, because you always see these documentaries or TV shows or whatever, and it's you have to go and get a Catholic priest. It can only be a Catholic priest. You can't go and get a Jewish rabbi or a Muslim imam or you know a pagan guy to do the exorcism. It's got to be a Catholic priest, and that's when I start to think, you bastards are just making this up, aren't you, to try and get business, as it were.
Yeah, it's not just a Catholic priest. It's one that is versed in demonology.
That's right.
It has to be sanctioned from the Catholic Church. So basically, the Pope has to sanction this group of people to go out and do things
it's
like
right.
exorcisms.
I know. It's what cracks me up about. And then you see them, they come in the place and they read a prayer and they throw some water around, and suddenly this all-powerful evil spirit's gone. I'm like, well, if it's that simple, you do it yourself, you know.
Yeah, you could start saying verses from the Bible and grab some local holy water or bless some water yourself and do it yourself.
Well, that's my argument. That's my argument. You see, that's why I think it's just a creation of the Catholic Church to drum up business.
I think it's also a way to explain away some mental health conditions. Or maybe people who have something like epilepsy. They just start having a seizure or whatnot, and they didn't. The people around them didn't realise that it's an actual medical condition. I mean, I hope I don't come across any demons, touch wood, but I haven't seen it. I mean, I've been to places that have like really bad or heavy or yuck energy, I would say, but I haven't seen any demons or people being possessed and then getting angry and trying to beat other people on the team, like the Sin program. It's very popular.
It's true. All right,
it's very lucky.
I know.
Or unlucky, I guess. I mean, the chances of that happening is phenomenal. But I know he has a haunted museum and all that he's inherited from people. But it's all for TV, really. It's all for show, I think.
It is indeed. This is Paranormal After Dark with the Roadie. I'm with Natasha from Paranormal New Zealand. We'll be right back after this break.
Paranormal After Dark with the Roadie.
blood red, rain on the skyline, just birds trapped in a coal mine. You know they're all dead. Bodies line the horizon, dark clouds collapse in the sky, and no light left on the lifeline. First you wanted nothing, but then you wanted more, and now you want it all, and nothing left but time. So there's your answer. Nothing left to take, and now you're stuck in wastelands. Ask why you're forsaken. You blow it away. You blow it away. No time in the timeline, no light in the pipeline. Wrong mind at the right time. The bird just died in the coal mine. Call off the search for home. You pulled out the threads and now they're all dead. First you wanted nothing, but then you wanted more, and now you want it all, and nothing left but time. So there's your answer. Nothing left to take, and no more hearts to break, and tears are filling lakes. So there's your answer. First you wanted more, and now you want it all, and nothing left but time. So there's your answer. Nothing left to take, and now you're stuck in wastelands. Ask why you're forsaken. You blow it away. Blow it away. No time in the timeline, no life in the lifeline. You're bad with the blood, now prepare for the flood. No time in the timeline, no life in the lifeline. You're bad with the blood, now prepare for the flood. Nothing but then you wanted more, and now you want it all, and nothing left but time. First you wanted nothing, but then you wanted more, and now you want it all, and nothing left but time. So there's your answer. Nothing left to take, and now you're stuck in wastelands. Ask why you're forsaken. You blow it away. You blow it away. No time in the timeline, no light in the pipeline. Wrong mind at the right time, because you blew it away.
Hungry Ghost from a New Zealand band Arrays. And my chat continues now with Natasha from Paranormal in New Zealand. All right, we're back with Natasha. We were talking about a man's show who will be unnamed before the break. You all know who it is. But while you're talking about haunted museums and stuff, the Warrens. A lot of people like put stock in the Warrens, you know, and I think they were charlatans as well.
Yeah, I have some belief in Lorraine,
Yeah.
but definitely not in the counterpart. I think in the beginning, legitimately, they thought they were doing the right thing.
Yeah.
But then, obviously, it snowballed. They got really popular. They were essentially doing seances like in the 1800s at people's houses and getting rid of demons and cursed objects and things like that. And I don't agree with a lot of the stuff that they've done, but it did sort of, I guess in a way, launch sort of paranormal investigations and seeing if this stuff is legit, and it sort of helped with people forming teams and collaborating to try and see if there is life after death.
So what we're talking about, you did right there. So talk about Lorraine now. Now this is an area that I often I struggle with it sometimes, Natasha. I really do. The psychic side of things, like I kind of I get the ones who who say, I get this feeling, you know, like I feel this, I feel that, because I've had feelings over the years, and there's been situations like years later that have come to me, and I've thought, I had a feeling about that situation, and it kind of, you know, I just knew it was wrong, and so I didn't go there, and I had a feeling, right? So I kind of get that. But the ones that sit there claiming that, oh, I'm talking to John Smith and he's telling me ABC, I just think, yeah, really? I don't know.
Yeah, I haven't had like a proper psychic reading, but the ones that I have, definitely, they're not reading me, which is interesting.
Yeah.
Maybe I have a natural block.
Yeah.
But I understand. I've had similar things. One of the houses that we used to investigate quite frequently is Massey Homestead, which was owned by Bill Massey, or William Massey, who was one of New Zealand's prime ministers. And on the second visit, I was drawn to a bookcase, and which is full of books from his kids. And the first book I picked up and opened up had an address that's like 6 doors down from where I'm currently living, and I'm in a small North Waikato town. So those sort of things are very weird. And I was drawn to that bookcase. Like something told me to go to this bookcase and have a look at this book.
That's weird, eh?
And I can't explain those sort of things.
No.
And I don't claim to be psychic either.
Those book things like that are interesting. My mother, I'm originally from Christchurch, and we moved to Dunedin after the quakes. My mother, her grandmother lived in Kaikoura, and back in the 30s and 40s and 50s, there was a lot of earthquakes up there, you know, and she was living in Christchurch as a little girl, and she had this old book that had some letters in it from her grandmother, where she'd been writing to my mother, telling her about these earthquakes in Kaikoura and how she didn't like them, and she feared that, you know, there'd be bigger ones one day and stuff. Anyway, 2010, the it was about 2 weeks before the first one in 2010, the one that was overnight before the big February one.
Yes.
This book fell off her bookcase in her bedroom, and she thought, what the hell was that? And she picked it up, and it was open on the page where the letters were. You know?
Yeah.
And then a week later, the bloody earthquake came.
Interesting, coincidences and stuff. But I don't. There's been quite a few things like that happened, not earthquake related, but similar things with books and locations happen to me that I can't really explain. Like either it's, as you said, it was telling you to not go there or not do this particular thing, you know, or go towards this thing or do this thing now. And having weird, I would consider them coincidences, but there's been quite a few, so I can't really explain that either.
Well, see, I kind of, you know, like you were talking about a place where the atmosphere was heavy before, right, or energy was heavy. I kind of think the psychics will walk into a place and say, I'm kind of feeling this, or I sense this, but they're not saying I'm having a chat with John Smith, right? You know what I mean? Or John Smith's coming through me. That, I think, is legit, the feeling, the energy. I believe you could feel the energy in a place, perhaps. Now, I'm not necessarily saying that the energy you're feeling is a spirit, but you might walk into a place and you might say, you know, I'm feeling like it's quite, you know, sad in here, or happy, or heavy, or, you know, that intuition ones I kind of put a bit of stock in, but, you know, you see some of them walking around going, oh, you know, there's a little girl here, and she's saying this and she's saying that, and I'm like, don't think so. You know? No.
There's been some cases where we've gone to certain locations and people said, oh, there's kids here, and I'm like, I don't feel any kids. I just feel a male presence. You know, like the presence doesn't really like us here, doesn't like us in its space. And then potentially the noises that they're making is to draw us away from this area, because that person or people do not want us to be there because it's their space. And who are these people to invade my space?
Well, that gets back to my earlier conversation about perhaps they're sitting in their lounge in their time and you're in their space. Who are you? Piss off.
Yep.
You know, yeah, it's sort of like you're walking through my lounge.
Yeah.
You're doing, you know.
That could also be a really good explanation for shadow people.
It could be.
Whether people have died, or is it a different timeline that has linked with a wormhole and people appear as black shadow people.
Yep.
Because they're not in your timeline, they're in their timeline, but you kind of have like a, I don't know, some sort of time bridge where you can see through into their time, and you probably look like a shadow person to them in their time. I don't know. There's lots of different theories around these sorts of things. Maybe it's not ghosts. Maybe it's, like you said, it could be two timelines meeting up when they're not supposed to.
Yeah.
At the same time.
Well, that's what I wonder, because, you know, I watch a few of these teams in the UK on YouTube, some of the more sort of like, I guess, teams like you guys who are a bit more legit. And often, you know, they'll follow each other into a house or a building. And some of them will get something, but then in the you know, a week later or 2 weeks later, in exactly the same spot in exactly the same place, there's nothing. And it makes you wonder if perhaps it's just a moment in time. They happen to be there at just the right moment in time for things to cross, you know?
Or the right collection of energies.
Yep. Well,
you know, like you have certain people in the right place at the right time, and what a lot of people don't understand is, like, when you do paranormal investigations, you're not going to be like the YouTube or the TV programs. You don't get something all the time. A lot of the time you're listening to nothing. Or in our case, like snoring when we film ourselves when we sleep.
Well, that's right.
So
when Mark came down with Sam a couple of years ago to Dunedin here, when I was still at the Globe Theatre, we went to the Globe Theatre, right? And the comment at the end of the night from Mark was, the building was the quietest he'd ever heard. Now, that building didn't make a sound all night, right? And I know, because I'd spent 10 years in that building made sounds. And I said to him afterwards, do you think that was the haunting, or that was the spirits? They were just being quiet. Like, they didn't make any noise. That was the paranormal activity. No noise.
maybe.
See? There's normally noises in an old 160-year-old building. We'll make no noise. You know, it's kind of...
We're going to be very quiet.
You
And
know.
again, it could come down to energy from the people in the room. Maybe, I mean, if I was a ghost, I probably would interact with everybody that came and tried to talk to me.
Yeah.
So, you know, it could be a intelligent haunting or preference, or I don't know. Maybe they had something better to do.
Well, that's what I'm thinking.
That night.
Yeah, exactly. Well, see, this is the point. That's the point I wanted to say is you see, the night thing, and I'm not knocking you guys for going out at night, but like, I've watched one the other night in the UK where they went into an old person's home, right? And they're wandering around at night going, this place is dead. Well, think about it. An old person's home, when would it be most active? During the day.
Yeah.
So any residual energy, potentially, if you assume that time is linear and night and day is continuous, etc., then surely most of the activity would be during the day because they're all sleeping at night.
Yeah, I mean, we go to places during the day, but often it's quite noisy because you've got people out in public and things like that.
Exactly.
Also, we all have full-time jobs,
Exactly.
so we can't just go goat hunting. Let's go ghost hunting
Yeah,
in the middle of the day. But
I realise that, but I do often wonder sometimes when you see a team gets nothing at night, you think, well, I wonder if it's because that actual building, the energy would be around during the day. You know, and because, like, it could well be around and they could be making sounds and stuff, but you actually don't hear them because of the noise from the day-to-day stuff in our time, you know?
yeah, from the cars, people walking around.
Yeah, there could well be a noise in the room, but you don't hear it because you've got people around you. You know, it's interesting. So, while I'm talking about hearing things, apparitions, seeing things like that, have you guys ever seen anything that you can't explain? Again, there's a certain TV show that'll have apparitions on, right? It's amazing that they always get apparitions, and I'm like, really? I mean, have you ever seen anything either that you guys have done or someone else has done that's credible, that could have been something trying to materialize or whatever?
I haven't personally, but I have, and some of my team members have seen shadow people at certain locations.
So only shadow people though, not apparitions of people.
Not like a full body. Usually, it's a full-bodied female in a white or grey dress going downstairs. That's
I know.
the usual one that we hear about.
No, I know. And I'm thinking, why do they all wear white or grey dresses? You know. Yeah, I know.
Why couldn't it be like a guy in just some underwear or something walking down the stairs?
Exactly. He's got up.
Or like a normal person, like wearing povo clothes, just lounging around their house.
That's exactly it. I know. It's funny. That's why I kind of wonder about that. But again, who knows? I mean, you'd think if it was kind of like if you base on the residual theory for sound, right? Then surely theoretically residual for visual should be the same. Like if people are going about their day-to-day business, let's say they're servants in a house, then you'd expect to see them dressed as servants in a house in the 19th century, not in a white dress.
Yeah.
It kind of, I don't know. It is intriguing. You're right about the white dress thing. There's always a white dress, and that kind of cracks me up a bit.
or it's a little girl in a white dress. I don't know, that seems to pop up a lot.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess on that thought, I haven't seen it, but to see like a full body apparition, that must take a lot of energy to do.
Well, you'd think so. Yeah.
If you think of like the ghost theories, and they need energy to talk to you and interact with you. Imagine having to have energy to appear and then do poltergeist stuff. Like, I've yet to see stuff being thrown across the room and like chairs or.
I know.
I've yet to see anything like that. I'm not discounting it doesn't happen. I'm just saying it never happens when you're a paranormal investigator.
I have to say, I saw one recently on YouTube, and I think these guys are pretty legit, right? The guys from Ghosts on Trent, they were in this old church, and they were down the other end of this church for an hour, and there was a broom leaning up against the seat at the far end of the church that actually legitimately on their camera looked like it had been pushed from the top and hit the ground. They were nowhere near it, and I thought, now that's intriguing. I don't think they set that up. It didn't appear that they could have set that up. So that was interesting in itself, but certainly nothing like throwing across the building or, it's yeah. And again, it would take a lot of energy. I recall seeing there was a comedy on here a few years ago. They played a series of a British thing about this young couple that had bought this mansion. I think it was called Ghost.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. And,
I remember that one.
Yeah, and they'd be sitting there going, pushing with their finger as much as they could, trying to get the energy to make things fall over, I thought that's what ghosts are doing. You're saying, come and push something over, and the poor ghost sitting there going, I've got no energy.
Yeah. Normally I have to remind, even when we're doing communication sessions, that we need to like maybe pause a little bit longer.
Oh yeah.
Because they need to have the energy to do the response.
Well, you'd think so, yeah.
And if it's not a ghost and it's like a parallel universe or timeline, then they might be slightly out of sync, like 10 seconds or 20 seconds or a minute.
Yep. And there was a great episode of the original series of Star Trek like that. I don't know if you ever saw it. I can't remember what it was called. But they were on the bridge of the Enterprise, and all they were getting was this whistling noise, right? Like a buzzing in their ear. And it turned out that Spock somehow figured out that it was an alien race that was on the ship. But they were their metabolism was moving so much quicker than what we were moving, and all you were hearing was, and they had to somehow speed up someone's metabolism to have them talk to them, which was bullshit. But still, you know what I mean? Like perhaps they're moving at a different frequency or a different vibration to us.
Yes, they could be either ahead or they could be behind.
That's right. This is the Roadie. This is Paranormal After Dark. I'm chatting with Natasha from Paranormal New Zealand. We'll be right back after this from Living State. Another Kiwi band for you, and a song called Stalker.
Paranormal After Dark with the Roadie.
So what I'm going to ask you now is something that does interest me, because it's touching on something we talked about before, where you were saying about, and I often wonder this. You know, you're talking about who's in the room at the time. Like sometimes you see some of these ghost teams on YouTube, and there'll be 3 or 4 people there, or there'll be one person there. And you look at this one poor guy, say, and he's forever calling out, and no one ever says anything to him. And you just look at him, and you just wonder, maybe you're giving off the wrong vibes or the wrong energy, right?
Maybe.
You know what I mean? Or, but also, I'm fascinated with the sexes thing, the male and female thing. Like, do they sense or interact differently? Or, you know, because I think they do.
Yes. I've experienced it, and team members have experienced it at the lake house. Definitely there's a male presence that doesn't seem to like women.
Okay.
It feels like someone's right behind you all the time. But none of our male members, as far as I know, have actually felt that. But pretty much any female that's gone up a particular staircase has felt that sort of presence. I've felt that before, but I am not a pushover, so I'm just like, I'm here, so what? You know, I'm not being disrespectful or anything. Just, you know, you be on your way and I'll be on my way. And
well, at the end of the day,
Amy often sends me upstairs to collect her stuff at the end of the night because she doesn't feel comfortable to do it herself.
Yeah. But see, at the end of the day, and I might have said this to Amy, like, you've never heard of a ghost really attack anyone, right? Not legitimately. You've seen it on horror films and stuff like that, right? But even if they're feeling uncomfortable and they're following you around and they're doing stuff, making you feel like that, they're not really doing anything to you. They're probably not going to do anything to you, right? It is intriguing, you know. But
I guess you have to be female to sort of understand that. It's a sort of the feeling when you're walking around by yourself in the dark.
That's what I'm saying.
Men don't seem to get that. Like, I don't know, you're walking around in the dark, you're by yourself, and you feel like someone is like following you as a female thing, you know, and for various reasons. I mean,
and
men still get attacked at night as well, but it is a fear for women. So maybe that entity is playing on that fear, knowing that they are afraid. Whereas I don't tend to give off fear.
I get
really.
that.
So, I don't. It's interesting because I've felt that presence. My partner's felt that presence. Pretty much everyone has been to that location that's female has felt that presence. And it definitely feels male, and it feels slightly threatening because it feels like someone's right behind you at all times,
right.
in particular areas. Whereas the males don't tend to feel it at all.
I mean, and I agree with you there. Guys can be pretty bloody oblivious to what's going on around them, and that's what I'm saying. I do wonder if we're talking about sensitives, you know, not psychics but sensitives, females are legitimately do feel things more, because it's really you kind of supposed to see some of these ghost teams in the UK. There's 2 blokes and they're standing there all night and nothing happens. They have a female with them, maybe the female will sense something, you know. So I don't know if it's a sexist thing, but with the sensing thing, I guess it could be like female intuition, a type thing, mother's instinct. If you had kids, I haven't had kids, but you know, that sort of thing. Maybe we're a little bit more open to it, and you know, it's more cool to be nonchalant and we're ghost hunting, but we don't really believe in EVPs or you know, nothing's going to happen tonight because you know, we've been to this location 10 times and nothing's happened specifically to people or whatnot. But then there's other people in the group that experience different things. I don't know if there is a difference. I just kind of think there is, because a bit like what you said, female intuition, women seem to be a bit more attuned to things in life in general. So to
We,
me, with the paranormal, maybe you're a bit more attuned to the paranormal as well. You know, it's kind of
perhaps, yeah. I mean, because you look at women's traditional roles, they sort of have to anticipate, is my child sick, or
yeah,
I've got all these things to do today, and I've got to do them in this order, and I've got to squeeze this in here, and you're sort of spending a lot of time managing your time to make sure that you can fit everything into one day. Not saying that there's no stay-at-home dads
no,
these days, but majority of the women at my work are running around after their children, and they're making dinners and lunches and all this stuff. Whereas my partner and I, we split the difference. Like we don't have set roles because we're both female, so
that's right.
we have to do everything. Whereas it's not, oh, you're female, you have to do all the female stuff
So,
and still go and work a full-time job,
so
sort of type thing.
I'm going to touch on something now that has intrigued me as well. I've got a friend who's a trans person. They transitioned from male to female. They live in Auckland.
Oh yeah.
And they've found they lived in an old house for a while, and they felt there was some bad energy towards them because of that. Now I've often wondered that in our life, in our world, is male female, right? And then there's also
Yeah.
same-sex couples. Is there interaction in the? I mean, again, we're assuming that the paranormal world is legit and that what we're talking about is there. Gay couples of either both male or both female. Have you ever heard of any sort of paranormal interactions that are different because they might be that way, or you know what I mean? It's I'm not. Yeah.
I have heard, like, from Amy, because I've got short hair,
Yeah.
that maybe they mistake me for a male, or I confuse them, and they just don't want to deal with that.
Okay.
Like, especially going to prisons and stuff. Like, she will feel more threatened, and so yeah, when we went to Norfolk Island, feel more sort of threatening energy and thing. Whereas
Yeah.
stuff just leaves me alone
Mm-hmm.
until it realizes, oh, you're actually female, but you cut all your hair off.
Yeah, see, my friend had that in the house they were living in, where they felt like there was something in there that was very aggressive towards them because of who they were or who they'd become, And I thought, and yet when I knew them as a male, they had experiences down in Christchurch, that could have been paranormal or could have not been, and they said to me the feeling was quite different. So I wonder if the other side is the same,
It could come down to energy.
Yeah, yeah.
Because I've been to asylums, and technically, because of my lifestyle choice, because I identify as lesbian,
Yeah.
I would be in one of those asylums. But I've never really felt threatened there.
Okay.
If anything, it's sort of more accepted,
Right.
if that makes sense.
Okay, yeah. So it is intriguing because we're talking about just binary male female, and so if we start talking about other sexes and other orientations and all sorts of it's something you don't see on these ghost shows. It doesn't come out, and that would be. I'd love to see data on that personally, just to see if there is any difference in the way the spirit world, because we have people in our world that are prejudiced against other people's lifestyles, right? So
Yeah.
So would that stand to reason if again we are saying that it's a spirit world and there's spirits on the other side, and maybe they are from a time like you say where that would be frowned upon? Are they interacting because your orientation in their time was frowned upon, and it is intriguing. It's something that I've always thought about, and just whether or not that's the case or not.
Yeah, I haven't experienced it myself.
Yeah.
As a female, but I'm pretty certain that there would be experiences like that. There's a whole team in the US. They did a Kickstarter. I think it's called Blood Moon.
Right.
And they're all I think they're all female, and they're all various
Yep.
sexual identities and gender identities, and they're trying to kickstart a series, which I would be interested in to see, as you said, if there's any different interactions with these people.
Yeah.
I mean, it's got like Michelle Bellinger on there as well.
Right.
If you know about Michelle Bellinger, she's the psychic.
Oh, okay.
But I think she identifies as male, but she's actually intersex by
Right.
birth.
Right. Okay.
So that is interesting in itself. Like how would a ghost or entities interact with someone like her,
Yeah.
which is legitimately very small proportion, I believe, of the population.
That's right, and see, race thing as well. It would be intriguing to know. Say for example, particularly in the southern states of America, you know, around the Civil War time, if there was spirits of, say, either Confederate soldiers or white plantation owners and African American slaves, whether or not you're interacting with them as a white person or a person of color now, whether there's something there. That now they would make interesting TV series, Natasha. What you just talked about and what I just talked about. Instead of your traditional ghost show, that's what someone needs to make. Something like that, you know?
We get all the non-represented people,
Yeah.
or the very small proportion of represented people, and we put them in a team and see what happens.
Well, no, seriously, because
We'll
that
send them to like South Africa.
Yeah, or even
or somewhere like that where there's apartheid, or
Yeah.
like you could go anywhere because there was, you know, whether you're female or of a different race, like you could do it in Australia because their history, they didn't really like immigrants,
No.
especially like the Greek and the Italian, and even though they've embraced them now, but back in the day they were pretty not happy with the imports.
Well, that's exactly it. That would make, now, if there's any TV producers out there listening, all 6 people that listen to my radio show, if there's anyone out there that's got connections in TV, you know, we're talking about cutting all these shows on TV because no one's watching them. That's the sort of reality show you want, right? Let's get a team. Let's get 2 teams. A team that's gender diverse and a team that's racial diverse, and let's have them follow each other into these places like asylums, like plantations, like South Africa, and let's see what sort of reactions they get. Now, that is paranormal TV.
That would be interesting to see what happens and what comes out of that.
That's it. That would be really interesting. That would be an experiment that would be worth doing.
Yeah. You can have drag queens show up, and the ghost won't know what hit them.
Well, perhaps, yeah, exactly. I mean, that's it. That's what you got to do. So a particular TV show whose name, man, we won't mention, you need to get some diverse people on your team, and let's see if that works. That'd be interesting.
Yeah, or you could take funding from that show
Yeah.
and put it into other shows like you did before.
Yeah.
And make it more diverse, so there's not just one show currently running, or a handful of shows.
That would be
Yeah,
interesting.
I mean, it would be a great experiment to run.
It would. We're going to wrap things up, but just before we go, experiments and engineering. This just reminded me. There was a show on a couple of years ago, the Tennessee Wraith Hunters. You know, they used to go haunted towns and all that stuff. And I used to laugh at those guys because I used to laugh, but then I thought, nah, you kind of. It's an interesting experiment what you're doing, and if it works, it'll be groundbreaking. They used to build the little contraptions to try and trap the spirits, right? Now, I used
Call it redneck engineering.
yeah. No, I used to laugh, right? But then I thought to myself, it's actually pretty cool if you catch something. But then I'm thinking, you've built all these contraptions, and if you have caught the spirits, you're taking them all back to your shed in Tennessee. It's going to be full of bloody spirits.
Be like the latest Ghostbusters type thing.
Well, yeah.
You've seen it?
I mean, that was one twist that was interesting, but they never seemed to capture anything, which was, you know, at least that was a twist to the kind of what they were doing, you know.
I give them merit because they were trying to make traps to catch ghosts.
Yeah.
And we don't really know what ghosts or entities are. So they were trying something different.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
that was
even if it looked a bit funny, it was still they still were doing some type of experiments.
Yeah, I'm with
Most
you on
other
that.
teams don't do.
No, I'm with you on that. That was quite good. That was a good part of that show where they used to make the traps and try and catch things, and they seemed quite serious about it. The guys building the contraptions, it was quite funny. And some of the stuff they
Yes.
come up with was very inventive, but who knows? Maybe they captured something and they didn't know they captured something because we don't really know what it is.
How do you prove that?
Yeah.
Like, you trap something in, I think they had like a crystal pyramid or
That's
a
right.
mirror pyramid or something.
That's right.
Like, how do you prove that you trapped an entity in there? Like,
That's right. Exactly.
you might have something in there, but no one can tell.
That's right. That's kind of where they didn't think it through. You know what I mean? Like, this is a great idea. Let's capture something. But then what were they going to do to prove that they captured something? And if they had captured something, how were they going to deal with it? It was quite interesting.
Yeah, the program was interesting in that respect.
Yeah, it was. It was.
But they were quite funny though.
Oh, they were.
It's definitely it definitely was a TV made for TV show.
Oh, for sure, it definitely was.
With those accents, Tennessee Race Chasers.
Race Chasers, God damn! I know. It was really fun. It used to crack me up because they used to do a prayer at the beginning too, which I thought was funny. Like,
Yeah.
But they
are from the south, so
well, yeah, I know.
it's
I know.
not surprising.
That's a whole nother discussion for another time.
Yes.
It's been a real pleasure
Cool.
to chat. Big thanks to Natasha from Paranormal New Zealand there. I will return very soon with another episode. Got a few interesting guests lined up. I'm just hoping to get the timing right because they're from overseas. We might be able to get them on. Anyway, that's the first episode of Series 2. I will see you next time. Take the show out now with a rickety old vinyl here. One of my favourite bands growing up from the 80s. A Kiwi band called Fat Sally from Christchurch, and this song is called Shadow of the Night. This is Paranormal After Dark with the Roadie.
Shadow of the night, you can feel the power, feel its might. In the shadow of the night, get ready to steal, to ring on burn. The darkness is your disguise as you crowd the streets, looking for a
Paranormal After Dark with the Roadie.